Deen destroys Jaime's drum kit, and I do a lot of talking and convincing and urging. Urging is a strong word, not very strong enough. They really didn't want Deen because he was just not the guy that they thought they could control. And Jeff was right. Our songwriting thing just kind of went kabooey when Deen joined the band. And you see, Wild Dogs got together every day and the afternoons to write songs. And that's all we did. We had no intention of playing live or being a band or doing any more than just recording some great songs. And we made the songs. We worked on the songs every day. Like, we'd go through 50 different versions of it. And I kept joking that it was like the Beatles. That we kept reworking the songs, and we really put a lot of thought and effort in those first 9 songs. And with Pete, Pete Holmes, he was a great drummer where he thought about parts and stuff and breaks and added his bit. And then Jaime, the same thing. He's a songwriter. And we got Deen, and it all kind of just went out the window. All those great, what I used to call hootenanny sessions, where we'd get down there and we'd work out the breaks, and Deen was just too hyper for that. Jeff, again, he was right. Deen was hyper. And it was to our detriment because we couldn't write songs. And we knew if we got Deen to keep him, we'd have to play live. We were on a KGON homegrown album, and it had a song on the radio called Born to Rock, which Jamie St. James was playing on that version. It was a great cut that Bob Stoutenberg did in the studio because we ran out of tape when we mastered it. And but that was on the radio all the time. We were on the U.S. Metal Volume 2 compilation with The Tonight Show, and that was also Jaime on drums. And Deen joined us after those 2 records, and before I suggested to Mike Varney, why don't you do a group album with the group that's got the best response? I didn't care if it was us. I didn't know it was us. He said, well, you have 5 songs already. You have half an album. You have money coming from U.S. Metal compilation. Why don't you just go back into the studio and see if you can work a deal out where you can record another 5 songs for $500. Bingo. And we did it. And it brought the studio a lot of business, I guess. And I worked there for a while. That's my working there paid for the Mayhem sessions. And because I would work for free, I brought in a lot of bands to record there. And then I would just accrue hours instead of being paid. We had to do a live show, which was in San Francisco with Culbert and Mike Varney's band Cinema, and Brad Gillis was the guest guitarist in between the bands. That was August 20th, 1982. We did shows like that. We went up to Seattle 2 weeks after this thing because Scott Earl, I met the guys in Culbert, and I was always really friendly and met a lot of the band guys and everybody we played. We went to Seattle, and that was amazing. You see, in San Francisco, everybody seemed to know the lyrics that we had. And there were a lot of these guys who were like in the Metallica, Slayer, the guys that broke those guys, Bill Hale, KJ Downton, Brian Lew. You've seen them on all the albums with Metallica records. But they loved us until Metallica came around, and nobody liked us. So we played in Seattle. We didn't play in Portland for probably a year after that. We played in Seattle and San Francisco, like, all the time. So we played nonstop with Deen, and the songwriting went out the window, and we played in Portland I think we played the Filipino Hall, our first gig in Portland, and then we played the KGON Homegrown album, which was a lot later after the record came out, at the Pigeon Toed Orange Peel. I remember 2 battles of the bands, and we were like rock stars. It was pretty cool because we were on the radio. And but our songwriting suffered. We had a deadline to have another second record out, in 6 or so months, and it just didn't happen. And we'd go down to practice, and practices weren't the same anymore. And Deen would show up. He would have these excuses or something that he just didn't show up unless we had a gig to do. Deen lived in Salem, about 30 miles away. He had no job. He had no money. So he was dependent on the generosity of the rich guitar player, Jeff Mark, who would give him some money for gas to come up here. A lot of times that money got spent on weed in Salem, and hey man, no, the van's broken, I gotta take it in to get fixed. And we waited outside a lot for Deen. Sometimes he wasn't the most dependable, you know, but the guy didn't need to practice. We had our set down. What we needed to do was really woodshed and write songs like we did with the first, 16 songs. Well, it kind of went downhill after that, and I was a little frustrated because we weren't having the same songwriting session. So I got together with Kit Doran, and I was producing a band called Haven, and I was friends with a lot of local bands. Haven, Chris Stackenhausen, who's also another dead guy, they would let us, me and Kit, would come over and borrow their drummer, Rick Baggett, and we would work out these tunes that I had that I was going to take back to the band and show them. So, because there was just, you see, we used to spend hours working on one song or a part of a song. So, I went to this meeting. I found this guy by putting out flyers on the tables in San Francisco, and this one guy found it. He ended up working for Journey's Light Company, Nocturne, and he wanted to be our manager. And so we had a meeting. I had a meeting with him in Portland when Black and Blue and Night Ranger were playing at the Keller, and the first day went great. Came up with some great ideas, and there I go again, giving my ideas away for free. The next night, I went to the show, and the rest of the band showed up that night, but they sat in a different area. And we got onto the bus at the end of the show to go have a meeting, and I got on first, back to the bus, and sit down with Auntie, and they had one extra guy with them. And it was kind of weird to begin with, because I knew he was a singer in another band. And when Jeff got on the bus, he said, and this is our new singer. They didn't ever tell me. I would have taken one of the many offers that I'd gotten to sing with these other bands who really wanted me and really liked what I did and who I was. But we were a different kind of band. Our fans were 99.9% male. There were no girls in the crowd, ever. It just was, heavy metal at the time was definitely a sausage fest.